we're here for the long term in your communities. We're not here just for transactions. We're here to watch people be successful and help them be successful.
You're with The Capitalist Sage, a twice-a-month podcast that seeks out entrepreneurs and experts that speak to the real-world life of doing business for their sage advice. Now, with your hosts, Karl Barham and Rico Figliolini.
Welcome to The Capitalist Sage podcast. We're here to bring you advice and tips from seasoned pros and experts to help you improve your business. I'm Karl Barham with Transworld Business Advisors, and my co-host is Rico Figliolini with Mighty Rockets Digital Marketing and the publisher of the Peachtree Corners magazine. Hey, Rico, how you doing?
Hey, Karl. Good, thanks. Hope you're well.
Well, why don't you introduce our sponsor before we get started today?
Sure. Our lead sponsor is Hargrave Fiber. They're a major Southeast company that is involved in fiber optics and IT. They're involved in the communities that they are in completely, like in Peachtree Corners, for example. They've been involved with Curiosity Lab at Peachtree Corners, the smart city activity that we do, and the work that people need to be able to keep working, either whether you're distance working, like teleworking, or you're bringing your team together at your office and such. So anytime you need IT work, fiber optics, smart tools to be able to do your work, fiber optics and all that should come from Hargrave Fiber. They're not your typical cable company. You can find them at hargravefiber.com/business. Check them out. They have a promo going on. It's a $1,000 gift card for those companies that qualify and become clients of theirs. So great people. We appreciate them sponsoring us.
Thank you very much for introducing Hargrave Fiber. As we're all gone digital this year, school, work from home, having high-speed internet at home is really super critical. And we're just glad we have great partners in the community that can help with that.
Right.
Today's guest, welcome to bring in Andy Cagnetta, who's the CEO of Transworld Business Advisors, one of the world's largest business brokerage firms, and been around for over 40 years and built a great, fabulous business. But the treat of today is he's here to help talk about how COVID-19 and how small business owners could think about the value of their business, their options on when they're ready to exit for the business, going into the future. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you both doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be in this business brokerage industry?
Well, I got to be in this business brokerage industry a lot. The way other people have gotten involved is they were in business for themselves. So I've had several businesses. I started a couple, I bought one, and I sold one. And so when I decided to move to Florida, my wife wanted to raise her family where she grew up. We decided to buy a business. And through that process, I met Transworld and was asked to be on the staff, and kind of the rest is history. I bought the company 2 years later.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Well, you've been doing this for quite a long time, and you've seen several ups and downs in the industry in general. Why don't we start off by talking about what is business brokerage and what types of people benefit from their service? Then we could talk about how the economic impacts like we're having in 2020 impacts those business owners.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to describe business brokerage is like a realtor. You hire someone to help market and sell your house and deal with the buyers and take the whole process from start to finish. We're a lot like that. We come into a business owner's world when they think about selling their business. We help them understand what they have to offer the marketplace and what they might get in the marketplace as far as value is concerned. We package up that business. We advertise it. We deal with the inquiries. We put meetings together, and eventually we get a deal done, and we earn a commission from that.
Oh, fabulous. So historically, if somebody were trying to sell the business themselves, there's some challenges to do that. What would be some of the typical challenges people do when you've seen them try to do it themselves?
Well, first, they don't have the capabilities to do it in knowledge, right? So they really don't know what they're doing. And it's certainly not a time when you have your biggest financial transaction of your life at stake to experiment on yourself. You know, it's kind of like doing heart surgery on yourself. You really don't want to do that. You can, one wrong step with the right buyer, you're not going to get a deal done. The second thing, the big thing that, business owners need to focus on, and we talk a lot about this in, valuing your business, they don't have the time to do this. And if they take time away from their business and focus on trying to get a deal done, the value of their business decreases very, very quickly, and they won't get they won't get a deal done, or they won't get as much as they could have if they would have focused on their business.
Got it. So this year, a lot of business owners have been under a lot of stress. COVID-19 hit in the year 2019 was a great year for selling businesses, for doing businesses. People were generating record revenues, profit. And then a year like this happened. To the average business owner that has been impacted in this and is starting to come out, how does a year like this impact the value of their business?
So the horrible news is, right, this crisis has really hurt a lot of businesses. And the only thing that I can urge business owners out there to do is try to survive. Because if we get to the other side of this, if we get to a point where there is no COVID around and business returns to somewhat normal, but let's say it turns to 2018, 2019 levels, or even less than that, a little bit less than that, the values of their businesses will immediately return, because a business is worth what a buyer will make in the future. And if we can point to the first 3 months of 2020, or even now, like some restaurants are now opening for the first time in 100% capacity. So if they recover now, their business will immediately be worth as much or even more. I could see that the restaurants that are survived this, and everybody starts to go back out once the vaccine comes along, I think you'll have a hard time getting a table at a restaurant.
Yeah.
They might be better, and they might even be worth more. So, the number one thing is you got to hang in there, right? And if you hang in there, the COVID crisis is like a lot of it. It's a blip, it's a quick downturn, hopefully a V recovery, or at least somewhat of a W. But if they can hang in there, the business value should return.
That's a good point you're making around hanging in there. But when businesses have this lower period of demand, like over these months, if they're not, what are some things that business owners can do to make their business more value when the clients and the customers come back? What are things that they may not have had time to work on in the past, but now they may have time to do? What would be some things that would help that value?
Well, we always say that I have this talk, and we don't have time for it today, but the 12 ways to increase the value of your business, and 3 of them is to keep better books and records. So if you did not, before this COVID crisis hit, this is a great time to get your inventory into an inventory system, to get a point of sale system implemented. I was just talking to a listing that I have now that for a restaurant that didn't have a point of sale system. And he's like, maybe it's time I do it. Yeah, maybe while it's slow, you get all your menu items onto a point of sale system. Then you're going to have great books and records, and great books and records will help your business sell much easier. So it is a time to kind of structure your business and get that inventory system or that project management system or that POS going right now.
One of the other things I think is often a chance is when people stay really busy, they don't focus on the people in their business, their managers, supervisors, and so on. Can you comment on the value of having a really good lieutenant or someone that can continue to drive the business once you exit it from the perspective of a buyer?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly don't want to be the chief cook and bottle washer, because if you've ever read the E-Myth book, what you want to do is you want to have that systems in place that is going to continue to bring in that money, those earnings. Businesses are based on value of earnings, and the buyer's only going to pay a multiple of the earnings if they think it's going to stick around. Well, if you're the whole reason why the business goes, and you're the marketing officer, and you're the person who's the salesperson, and you're the operations person, the buyers are going to be very hesitant to take over that job. If you have good people in place where all buyer has to do is come in and basically be a management person and oversee a system that is, running like clockwork, that's going to increase the value of your business immensely.
I've been talking to a couple of business owners that's doing something counterintuitive. During this year, they're actually growing, and they're growing through acquisition. We see a lot of businesses that are consolidating and struggling. What are some of your thoughts of those that are able to grow through acquiring other businesses during this time or beginning to scale? How does that impact the value in the future of the business?
Well, listen, as you know, and I know that businesses are valued based on the quality and quantity of their earnings. So as a business earns more money, it's worth a higher multiple. So if a business earns $100,000, it may be worth 2 or 3 times. If a business earns $1 million, it could be worth 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 times. So as the business grows, if you start acquiring people at 2 times, and you get $100,000 here and $200,000 of earnings here, and you get those economies of scale, and you get a business that's earning $1 million, you're going to make 4 or 5 times that. So this is a great time to go around. And even I thought there would be a much more opportunity for buyers because I thought there would be a bigger COVID discount out there. I'm not seeing it yet. I mean, obviously earnings are down and prices may be down. But if a business is currently making even 80% of what they used to do, or even 70%, those businesses are still selling for good price.
Let me ask you something. As you were talking about multiples and acquisitions, what hit me was: is it easier? Is it a better investment to purchase multiple franchises, let's say obviously of the same business in a variety of areas, than it is for a company that's a sole owner looking out for similar types of companies to bring them in under their fold? So, if you're a franchise owner buying more, or if you're a single, dry cleaner looking for other neighborhood dry cleaners, I mean, where would the best investment be?
Well, listen, the franchise system usually is a good system because, what we try to do at Transworld is we're building out infrastructure so people don't have to build it out themselves. So if you could buy a multi-franchise units, that's a great investment, right? So, you always want to spread out your risk. So if you have one unit and that makes a lot of money, it could be inherently risky. I mean, something could go wrong in that town. Something could go wrong on that road. I mean, I've seen businesses be on a road and they decide to redo the road and it's closed or almost closed for 6 months, and it just ruins a business. So multiple locations in any business might be a better risk, so you can spread out that risk.
I want to flip over to the buyer side. If you're a person out there, maybe you're in corporate America, maybe you got an entrepreneurial itch that you want to scratch, what would be some advice you give to folks when they're looking for business so that they actually get to the closing table and get the deal done?
Don't have paralysis by analysis. And it's, you could dive into these things, try to set up 8 billion spreadsheets, and you could try to figure out what the exact value of a business is. But I always laugh. The value of the business is going to be determined by the seller's, factor of how bad they want to get out, right? I spoke to a seller yesterday. They had a business that's earning $350,000, and we told them, our franchisee told them that it was worth $700,000, and he says, "Get $450,000 and get me out quick." Some buyer is going to get a great deal, on that business, and so it's always a factor of what the seller will take to leave. But, if you're going out there to buy a business, I would just say you got to go do it. And number 2 is you're not going to find the perfect business. If you're looking for that perfect business that dots all the I's and crosses all the T's, you're not going to, as I say, it gets an A on its report card in every single subject. That's not going to happen. There's no perfect business out there. So, what you want to do is you want to buy a good business at a great price and make it great by bringing your talent to it.
I'm talking to a lot of private equity and family and all these different types of investor groups that look at a business. And one of the things that's always a challenge, I could literally guess what they're going to ask for in their business. They send a sheet in and they're looking for something with X amount of of cash flow. They want it to be pretty much absentee run. There's this laundry list of stuff, but they're industry agnostic and they don't have an industry that they care about. What advice would you give to those types of folks to be more successful in their search? Often they're searching for 3-4 years and no deal's been done.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to some private equity groups and they told me they look at, and I think it was on our podcast, they were talking about, they look at, it was something ridiculous, like 1,200 deals a year or 2,000 of deals a year, and they transact on two. They're very picky. I would tell them that they need to be less picky. We had there's these guys who come out of very smart business schools, Ivy League and thing, and they start these pledge funds where they get their friends, families, and people they've met along the way. And even bankers that like these MBAs coming out of these high-end schools and say, if you find a deal, we'll back you. Well, we did a deal with these guys who they bought a painting company. Now it was earning over $1 million a year, almost $2 million a year. But what private equity group do you know would buy a painting contractor? Not many. So these two young kids, one of them Harvard grad, I forget where the other one graduated, bought a painting contractor almost $2 million. And I think they bought it for like less than $6 million. So here's a great deal, but it's going to be a little bit, it's not going to be the easiest business to run.
Yeah.
And that'll be their first deal. Then they'll go into something else, I'm sure. So if you're a family office that just got their money because your patriarch or matriarch of your family died, you're not going to be able to be that picky.
Wow, that's good. I'm curious, this year, it's been a lot of stress on the lending and banking with SBA between the CARES Act, PPP, EIDL loan. They got backed up. How are you seeing it now for acquiring funding to purchase business? And what should business owners now start thinking about as options to fund acquisitions if lending isn't as readily available?
Yeah, we saw this in 2009 and 2010 when we're in Florida. We did, we were doing about 20% of our deals with SBA lending. And then the next year, which equated to about 50 deals, 40 deals. The next year, we did 2 deals with SBA lending out of hundreds. So the problem with that is the banks get scared, of course. They're not going to fund a business that has falling revenues and profits. They're going to want to see it be able to turn around. I think it's a little different this time in the fact that we really didn't know when the 2009, 2010 economic downturn would end. This one, there's a little bit more certainty. I know there's uncertainty, but we all believe that this is going to go away by mid next year or even 2022. So I think if a business can show, and everybody's asking for the latest financials, don't talk to me about March and April. Show me what you've done this summer. I mean, show me what you did this last quarter through September 30th. If they can show that they've somehow pivoted, recovered, right-sized the ship so they have earnings, I think you could get financing. But if you can't, which is going to be the majority of the businesses, you're going to have seller financing and earnouts. And that's a bad word to sellers, but it's just the reality.
For those that may not know, the difference between a seller finance or an earnout, can you share what that is for business owners that may not?
Sure. A promissory note or seller financing is a certain amount of money. Say I got $500,000 or $1 million for my business with half down. Well, half and the rest of it in a promissory note. The promissory note would say when you get your payments, how much the payments are, and how long the note is. If you get an earnout, the earnout is going to be contingent upon the business metric, whether it be sales, earnings, gross profit. We like gross profit, and we could talk about that someday. But it can be variable. And a lot of times this works for sellers and buyers, because if there's this inherent risk in the marketplace and the seller's like, listen, if I just had more cash and I could get to 2022, this business is going to take off again. I really deserve more value. Well, it's okay. Well, if you're right in 2022 and 2023 and even 2021, if it's going to go up, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 25% of the profits, based on this. So it's variable, and it can not happen at all.
there's so many creative ways to construct a deal that could work for both buyer and seller. If I could ask you a little bit, share one of the things that you shared with Ann and I is, as a small business owner in the business community, being involved in the community and getting involved with different organizations in that. Can you talk a little bit around some of the things that business owners can do to help support their community, especially in a year like this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, one of the greatest things I ever did was sign up to join the board of the local soup kitchen called LifeNet for Families, and it's literally changed my life. And what people want to see in a person to do business with, people want to do business with people they can trust and that they like. And to show that you're trustworthy and show that you're a good person and become a trusted advisor in your community on anything, people are going to do business with people that do good. And I think that joining a board or volunteering for a board or getting involved in whatever cause you want to get involved, it can really show the community that you're willing to be a good partner. And I've certainly chosen who I've done business with based on their nonprofit activities and them helping to be a good part of the community. So yes, I've been involved with the Junior Achievement and the United Way. Most recently, I was just rolled off as the chair of the United Way, and it's been an honor. And I've learned so much from it. I have so many great friends, and I've gotten really good business. And I didn't start by saying, "Hey, I need to give back to my community because I want to do more business." That wasn't the start, but it certainly has been very valuable to us.
This year, there's a lot going on when it comes to diversity and social justice issues out there in the community. I'm curious, from your vantage point of looking at business brokerage and so on, I've noticed that there's a lot of brokerage firms that don't have a lot of diversity, a lot of women in it, and so on. What are some of the things that might have been driving that, and what are things that can be done to help improve that going into the future?
It comes down to education and opportunity and giving people opportunity. I have a great partnership with a friend. He's the president of Broward College here, which is one of the top community colleges, and he has a thing called Broward Up. And he realizes that, as a young man, and he grew up in New York, he didn't hear about college until he was like in high school. And, other kids grow up knowing about college, and other kids grow up knowing about entrepreneurship and investing. And I think the big thing that we can do is try to, encourage those communities, give those communities exposure to our marketplace and opportunities out there, and show them how to do it and encourage them to do it. And there are going to be, I think, opportunities moving forward for people. I think this is a great awakening of our society to say that, not everybody had an equal leg up. Part of why I'm involved in charity is because I do believe I had privilege. My college was paid for. I was never discriminated against really in my life. I mean, and so I want to be able to give those opportunities to others. And I think at Transworld, we already have models of it, right? Just think about the immigrant populations and what they do. They're buying the convenience stores. They're buying the hair salons. They're buying these small mom and pop businesses. Maybe what we need to do is go in, show others that they can do that, even people who aren't immigrants, and teach them how to grow and multiply those businesses. Perhaps, like we were talking about earlier, franchising.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I think giving access to opportunity and knowledge about the option is a great point to start at. But then even continuing that further, you described several things people need to know to acquire a business, how to get a loan, what comes first in your search, what you can look for. Outreach to different groups of people with that knowledge could help close the gap. I think we've got 20 years in which people have got more education, people of color, women, graduating with degree, graduating from the Harvards and the Yales of the world. They've worked in corporate America for 20, 25 years. They've accumulated some capital, But that last leap of jumping into entrepreneurship might be the next step. And sometimes it may take mentorship or sponsorship or just someone that can guide them down the path a little bit further if we could do it. If there was one thing you can magically do to help really drive that change in society, what would it be? Where would you start?
Think about all the things that have been successful, like Pell Grants and getting people as small business loans and minority statuses for businesses. I think we need to take all those things and we got to multiply them by 10, right? I mean, and you just said it, there's been opportunities over the last 20 years for some people to break through that. We have to take those examples and we have to multiply it by 10, and we have to give awareness. I've been on one of the things that I want to do moving forward for Transworld is be a part of that, fight against structural racism and understand how do we beat that? How do we help those communities, become entrepreneurs? There's all these things, your success has a lot to do with your zip code is. I mean, just crazy things, and your color as far as opportunities, what your name is when you put your resume in, all these things we have to battle. And I think as at Transworld, we can be a part of showing people how to take opportunity, educate them. Because I think still, as we talked about earlier, growing your business through acquisition or becoming an entrepreneur is still one of the best kept secrets and one of the best investments you can make that really people don't even understand.
I was on a conference call at Rico.
I was going to say I wanted to build a little bit about what you were saying before too, about immigrant population buying into small businesses, about teaching and mentoring. My father came from Italy and he bought his own business. He worked hard, but he worked hard before he bought that business, right? And I'm thinking what people need maybe is a little bit more, not just education, but that mentoring part, almost that hand-holding, if you will, because you find that in a variety of ethnic communities, right? I know several friends in the Asian community where they help others within their community actually walk them through buying or setting up their own business, getting the finance for that business, and they're actually walking them through the whole process. And then bang, they open the door. I mean,
you think about some of the ethnic communities that have come into certain businesses and done well. And you see that, and sometimes it's a lot of businesses that people don't want to be in, the car wash, the C-stores, and sometimes it's out of necessity. There's all kinds of studies about food deserts and things like that. But you think about those underserved communities, and you think about people like Magic Johnson going into those and opening Starbucks and opening movie theaters and giving opportunities. But you think those places needed small markets. Out of necessity, people can't get jobs, people can't get food. They're starting these small little businesses.
Yes.
And
what's great about
we need to give them power. We need to give them the ability to go to a better neighborhood and open up another business like it and do well. Yeah. Just think of all the food and the service businesses and that they can do well. And you see pockets of that, and we need to multiply those efforts. And you're right, Rico. My grandfather came from Italy as well. Was an ice and coal man. He had his own truck, and they worked really hard. But I do think that there was a difference. We've been able to blend into the community, and sometimes Black and brown people do not have that opportunity as we did.
For sure, and I think also when you're facing discrimination, it's easier, I think, if you had your own business and empowered that way, because you're already past that point, right?
Right.
You don't have to worry about discrimination if someone's going to promote you or give you more money for your job. Maybe you're being paid less than the guy or girl next to you for whatever reason. But you're making it on your own, right? You're empowered to be able to, based on the hard work you do and how smart you are. I mean,
here's the really good news, I think. The really good news. I think it's easier to become an entrepreneur than ever. just think of all the gig economy jobs that are out there. And I just saw an article that somebody emailed me because I had 20 predictions for the 2020, the next decade. I did not predict coronavirus, by the way. But one of the things I did predict is that the gig economy would eventually start selling their businesses. That an influencer on Instagram could eventually sell her business, or somebody on TikTok will be able to sell their business. And I think that we have to embrace that too, right? And it has to start in elementary school and colleges. We have to teach people how to become entrepreneurs.
For sure.
I think you're raising a good point. One of the things that I'd add to that, the mentorship helps. The other thing is eliminating barriers. There's so many things structurally in place that prevents people, whether it's lending and getting SBA loans, whether it's finding and sourcing deals. When a good deal comes out, you have to know someone that knows about good deals. Make friends with a broker. So he's going to follow when there's good deals. There's people that have that. Access to talent, good employees, good systems. And then there's communities through, sometimes it's the business associations, chambers of commerce, where they network and a lot of information is shared and access is given. And opening that up so more people are welcomed or brought into those things. So those opportunities are shared among a lot more. So there's definitely a lot of work to do. But I love that I'm starting to see people become awakened to that. I see leaders like yourself, Rico. We've done several podcasts on social justice in the community, and you did a fabulous job with the Peachtree Corner magazine talking about diversity in Peachtree Corners. And we're starting to talk about it. People are starting to behave differently and reach out and start understanding people differently. And I'd share with you an interesting opportunity that came through. I had a business owner that came into my office and he didn't know if his business had any value. And we did an analysis, and I said, you know what? He was contemplating shutting it down and retire. 66 years old, ready to retire. He's going to send out a letter to his customers and say that he's going to head out, retire. But instead, we said, this business is value. It generates a cash flow, and it was a gig business, a gig economy business that he built, and he only worked maybe 4 to 5 hours a week in the business. It sounded pretty good. We helped him put it on the market, and guess what? We got a couple of offers on it, but the person that purchased it was a person of color. In the corporate, it works for a corporation, but is starting to think about that entrepreneurship. And helping navigate him through the path, we ended up closing on that. He's able to own business. But the interesting thing, when they came back, the two of them, one gentleman was black, one gentleman, became good friends, talking afterward during the transition. And this is the first business this gentleman's going to buy. He's going to buy others over time. And that's sometimes it's getting that first one under your belt, learning from the process, and then being able to replicate that. And the best part is, at the closing, I got a picture of the buyer and seller, the buyer's kids who were there. So he's setting the example for his kids about entrepreneurship. And more of that needs to happen. We just need to happen faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it. We have to multiply that by thousands. And so, I think it's kind of like what, Broward College is doing. Instead of expecting people to come to college, they need to go into the communities and bring the college to them. And I think we, as business brokerage community and as entrepreneurs, need to bring those opportunities to those neighborhoods. And I mean, whether it's talking at high schools, whether it's having buyer seminars, seller seminars, but just giving people those opportunities, right where they live. So.
Well, I know if in our community, both Transworld and business brokerage in general, we have a lot of people out there that have the knowledge and skill. It'd be great to see, as more get involved in their community organizations, how can we help bring more people to the table as part of that? So that's going to be an interesting challenge that we could take on and help this bigger picture as a country. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So predictions for 2021, Andy, if you were a business owner right now, when do you start planning on selling your business, and what are the things you should be doing fourth quarter of this year, assuming that this period of the world's history will pass, and we get a vaccine and businesses start opening up. What are some of the things you think folks should do this quarter to be ready for 2021?
If I was wanting to sell my business in 2021, I would do everything I could to acquire new customers. And, it is an opportune time. Just think, say again, in the restaurant business, I would do anything I could to acquire new customers. And I think you can, because if 20 or 30% of the restaurants that are closed right now are never going to reopen, that means that there's people out there and they're finally coming out of their houses. So I would immediately do anything I could to get those people and get those revenues and earnings up. I mean, we have a restaurant for sale right now that's doing better than before the COVID crisis because he has been marketing and doing a lot of takeout and did the right thing. So I think there's opportunities for any business owner to continue to get more business. So number one, get more business. And number two, have the capacity to bring on more business in 2021, because again, people want to buy on the upswing, and no better time to have an upswing than when you had a big downswing. So, the chart can look good over the next, if March and April were a disaster for you, the rest of the year could look good. And then into 2021 can look great. And that's what I highly urge people to do. Like Rico was saying earlier, it might be a time to hire. It might be a time to hire that new person that's going to put you on social media for the first time ever. It's time to have growth strategies. Certainly not to put the brakes on and put your head in the sand.
You mentioned earlier a book, The E-Myth. Are there any other books you'd recommend for business owners as they're going through their journey, especially if they're thinking about exiting in the next 3 to 5 years?
I have my favorite negotiating book, which is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And I like his style because if you think about selling your business and you think it's this high-powered, ridiculous back and forth, bloody negotiation, it can't be. It takes a long time to sell your business. It's your baby. You're selling it to somebody else who wants it to be your baby. You can't beat each other up through the process. And we're there to kind of referee that. So that's one book I would suggest that they read, so they don't have that mindset that it needs to be this hard fought. It needs to be a good deal for people.
Oh, fabulous! If they wanted to learn more online, how can folks learn more about this process and just buying and selling of businesses in general for folks on either side of that equation?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of stuff out there. I know we like to plug our podcast too, the Deal Board. We have almost 100 episodes now, and it's a great place to learn the ins and outs of buying a business. Obviously, our website as well, and I just did throw it out there that we're willing to sit down with people. We want to be trusted. We're here for the long term in your communities. We're not here just for transactions. We're here to watch people be successful and help them be successful. So just, include us in your plans. Let us sit down with your investment advisor and your accountant and your attorney, and let's plan out how we're going to exit you over the next 2-3 years.
Oh, excellent. Well, Andy, I want to thank you so much for sharing a lot of great wisdom. We covered a lot of terrain in this conversation today, and just really, really good to have someone like you give your perspective and insight into what's happening this year. And if I take anything away, I think people should be optimistic about. I think we've navigated the toughest part of this as a country, as a world. And if you own a business, it's about putting your head down, grinding, getting customers back, building your business into the future. And for those that may, be struggling or may not be able to open up, it's a great time to find a new business to buy or to invest in. If they could. So I want to thank you for that. What do you have going on? Do you have anything going up this fourth quarter as we're rounding out the year? What's keeping you busy?
Well, I do have our big charity events. My wife does one called Pace Rocks. And so we have a kickoff for that. And again, I think this year we usually have live bands, so I think we're doing a drive-in theater this week. And tonight, at the same time as that kicks off, I have my pasta dinner meeting, which usually happens in the first quarter. We had 1,000 people last year. We raised $268,000 for the soup kitchen, and we're just trying to decide how we're going to do it next year. But we're going to do it, and we'll figure out a way. And looking forward to that. And I just want to give you kudos, Karl. I mean, the amazing thing that I had through my business journey is for great people to partner with us, and I'm honored to have you and join in our franchise, and amazing, and take what we believe is doing good deals for good people to other communities. So thank you, Karl, for being a great part of that. And Rico, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Absolutely. Folks wanted to reach you, Andy. What's the best way to reach you?
Just tworld.com or AC@tworld. It's that simple. I'm all over the place, so I'm sure you can find me, but happy to talk to anybody.
Well, thank you again for joining us today. So that's Andy Cagnetta. He's the CEO of Transworld Business Advisors, one of the world's largest business brokerage firms, and for over 40 years been doing good deals for good people, and just wanted to share insight on what business owners can start thinking about as they're going into 2021, positioning themselves for a successful exit if they're ready, or even if they're ready, acquire more and become bigger and get that multiple up on their business. So thank you for that.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm Karl Barham with Business Advisors of Atlanta Peachtree. Our business is here to help people, consult with them, help them figure out how to exit the business when the time is right. And if you're looking to improve or grow or through acquisition, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone on my team. kbarham@tworld.com is the best email. You can also find us at www.tworld.com/Atlanta Peachtree. And Rico, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up?
Sure. First, I want to say thank you for bringing on Andy, because dealing with, talking with you as a co-host on the show for almost 50 episodes, about 47, 48, I've learned a lot. So, and I've even adjusted my business a little bit because of what we talk about on a weekly basis. So all good stuff. As far as what's going on with Peachtree Corners magazine, we're at deadline, and we're working through this deadline this week. Goes to the printer on Monday. So we have quite a few articles in there, some major stuff on great backyard retreats, pets and their people. We just finished the giveaway we just had, so we're going to be announcing the 3 winners on that. And we have a feature in there about thankful things that people are thankful for, messages from a lot of students, a lot of parents in Peachtree Corners, so it's going to be a cool thing. Then, we're planning the next few podcasts, certainly with Capitalist Sage and City Manager and Peachtree Corners Live, so there's that. And of course, if anyone needs marketing, digital marketing, online content, video, product videos, podcast production, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at rico@mightyrockets.com or check out Rico Figliolini, if you could spell that, on LinkedIn. I'm sure if you search it on Google, you can't miss me. It'll pop up somewhere, I'm sure. But livinginpeachtreecorners.com is the magazine website. You can find all the podcasts there as well and everything about Peachtree Corners. So that's the place to go. And I want to thank again Hargray Fiber for being a lead sponsor with us.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We got more great episodes coming up. Be safe out there and get ready for the fall. Let's hear. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
This has been the Capitalist Sage with Karl Barham and Rico Figliolini, the twice-a-month podcast with entrepreneurs and business experts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Want more? Visit our website at capitalistsagepodcast.com.